Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hope you all had a nice, relaxing weekend with very few Instagram posts.
Who was it? I think it was Ellsrich that was like, Blake Lively is crashing out, and she just, or maybe it was Notoriously Raven. She was like, look at all of these, because it'll show like a little bar for each post.
Yeah, and
And she was like,
it's just dots.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I mean, well, and one of the questions that I know people had, and I don't really know, is do you think they're going to do anything about that?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
I think they do something, and then Sigrid runs to the media and goes, they're trying to silence a survivor.
Fair.
You know?
Right.
And I really don't think an Instagram story is the kind of tainting the jury pool.
Yeah.
If this was a follow-up New York Times article, we'd have a different conversation, but
yeah.
it's a story that was there for 24 hours. Like,
I think she has made it onto the grid now. Like she has
she
posted it as a like a feed post.
Okay.
So
let's
there's
look.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do not have Instagram, so I don't actually know.
I forget constantly that I have Instagram. Okay.
Let's see. She said she reposted it a few minutes ago. Or SH reposted it? Is SH somebody? She reposted it. Okay. She reposted it a few minutes ago.
Oh yeah, it is on the grid now. Okay.
So
great. Good for her. It's a hell of a statement.
Yeah.
It ruffled some feathers.
It did. You know, I think that I hope that people that are passionately defending her are also willing to read her litigation, and they're willing to actually read the judge's opinion and see what was said so that they understand it.
They claim they are, but
yeah.
I saw a post by an attorney, not MJ, that is staunchly Blake Lively. And she was like, well, it was dismissed because she's an independent contractor. And somebody had commented, like, I'm an independent contractor and I'm bringing claims. And she was like, what? I've never heard of that. Like, not under federal law. And like, kind of insinuated that she didn't know claims. And I was like, had you read the order like you said you did,
you would
know that California code is like a supplement to FEHA and allows contractors to bring claims.
Yeah.
So did you read the order?
Probably not. They assume. I believe Sigrid McCauley made a statement saying that it was the independent contractor issue that got her claims dismissed. I also just want to remind people that, like, technically, stuff, but I would also point out that, like, I'm sorry, this is my internet.
Okay, I was like,
I think everybody lost us for a second.
I was like, I heard none of that, but whatever you were going to say was great.
I said, sorry, my internet went out for a second. So what I was saying was the technicality, the framing of she lost on a technicality. Most of the time when I hear the phrase technicality, it's due process is the technicality. Right. And in wrongful convictions, they hear this a lot, that somebody is dismissed on technicality, and it's just due process. But also it's worth pointing out that her attorneys are not going to frame it as she lost on a technicality, because that directly impacts their perception for themselves and how good a job they are as attorneys.
Also, the technicality is that California law does not apply to her.
Right.
Because she refused to sign her contract.
Right.
Those are the facts of the case. The
Right.
undisputed facts of the case are why she lost at summary judgment. So it's really frustrating to see people saying this is a technicality. Oh, we did coordinate, Green.
We
Good
did,
call,
yes.
Katie. We did not coordinate. It's just one of those days. But yeah, it's frustrating to see people say the technicality and then in the same breath be like, well, Justin's was dismissed under the law, but Blake's was a technicality. And I'm
Right.
like, what are we doing here?
Right. So it's just, yeah, the technicality is that she didn't sign her contract. And
And they brought suit under the wrong
state.
yeah, and that she was an independent contractor. I mean, I still wonder if they had that PGA letter when they sued, because if they got that during discovery, they probably were like,
I think I would imagine there are a lot of things that she did not bring to her attorneys in the beginning. I think there was a rush to file.
oh yeah,
I think there was a rush to frame things in a certain way, and they did not have time to kind of correctly, you know. The other thing is what I see, and I mean, this is probably, you're an attorney, so I'm sure you see this all the time. A client who doesn't think that things are necessary, because they understand how the law works and they understand how juries think, and they just absolutely know that this piece of information is not going to be relevant, so they don't bother to tell you.
yeah. Yeah, or they dump a bunch of stuff on you that they're like, I think this is super relevant, and you have to be like,
this doesn't.
You just gave me hundreds of pages of read through on your dime for okay. Right. So it's always a bummer when somebody's like, this is super important, and you're like, it isn't.
Yeah, right. This isn't. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I did want to point out, because I'm trying to like star comments. Can you see starred comments? Like, can you see on the chat? Like
nothing
in StreamYard?
Oh, yeah.
There's like a starred thing. So I'm gonna try and star them so that they go to that section, if that makes sense.
Can you explain the tag option to resubmit a motion for summary judgment, and what would that mean going forward? I haven't had time to look into what the claims would be there, or
oh, I did look at the case law.
You did? Okay.
Yes. Okay, so basically there is an argument that the individuals, that Melissa Nathan and Jennifer Abel, cannot be held liable for retaliating, aiding, and abetting under FEHA. But the way that Lyman reads it, that does not necessarily apply to companies that have been engaged as subcontractors.
Sure.
So what he said is, I'm not dismissing it, because although Lively didn't make the argument that because it's a corporation. So basically they argued Nathan, Abel, and Tag cannot be held liable because they are not Wayfarer. And although Lively didn't argue it, Lyman said technically a corporation can be held liable for retaliation under FEHA, or aiding and abetting retaliation under FEHA, if they're a subcontractor. But because this was a new argument that nobody has had the chance to actually address, he's like, they can file an amended, because they can try and get it dismissed on that.
And you guys, judges will say all the time, brief this for me. I just had a judge ask me to brief something on a voluntary dismissal, right after an answer was filed. So judges will say, like, I want to hear more. What are your arguments under this? So it'd be interesting if Tag gets dismissed. I think.
Yeah. I suspect Ellen Garofalo is going to write something, and I think they'll at least try.
Sure, you have to. If the judge invites you to dismiss more of your defendants.
And I think there's a couple places where Lyman is directing Wayfair on arguments that they can make, how he would argue it. You know, there's a lot of places where he's saying, well, if Wayfair argues this, then I suppose a jury would find this.
Yeah.
So.
The strongest retaliation claim, according to the judge ruling, I don't know that he really gives us. Basically, what he's saying is the facts, looking at the facts in light of the non-moving party, right? So what you do is you file a motion for summary judgment, and the judge is going to say, I'm going to look at the facts in the light that's best for the person that you're filing this against. So in this case, it's Lively. And he's saying, based on what she's asserted, there is enough here to go forward on the retaliation claim. I don't really read any of that as him saying one thing is more strong than the other. Here is what I will say and what I have been saying. So if you guys are tired of me saying this, I don't, stop following me. But we will likely see more evidence around what happened as far as Blake's, what I call Blake's smear campaign goes, right? We will see more evidence as far as them asserting that hiring Tag was defensive, right? So they were defending themselves from what she was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we will see more evidence around that, because that would not have been good evidence for a motion for summary judgment.
Right.
I think Blake's strongest retaliation claims are what she's had all along, and that's the text messages. There's a text from Baldoni saying, I'm not feeling the protection here, and pointing to something that was going on with Hailey Bieber in the media and saying, could we do something like this? So I think that's their strongest evidence, but to borrow a phrase from criminal law, it's kind of circumstantial, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, given the direct evidence showing they did not want to smear her,
right,
that will overcome a jury's.
and that's the thing. I think she's got strong evidence of what Nathan and Abel wanted to do. I don't know that she has strong evidence that Wayfair ultimately paid them to do it. I think the biggest thing for me that we still don't know is what's the reason for the amount that they paid, because for me at least, and I'm trying to imagine like what a jury would see, is that for a jury, they're going to say, okay, so there's $125,000 a month pitch, but you're paying them 30. So it's unlikely that he just decided to do a 75% discount on a smear campaign just for funsies, right? So the question is, he's doing something less, and so the question is, what is he doing? Can he account for his time?
Right. And you know, if Jed was, so we've seen some evidence come out that Jed was monitoring, and if Jed was monitoring what Blake was doing, we would not have seen any of that evidence, because again, that goes to a defensive reason for retaliating, right? Like, so all of the evidence that Jed collected that was likely turned over, we would not have seen yet.
Right, because that just muddles things.
Exactly. And gimme.
Yeah, that's true.
I want it.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to picture what a jury is going to come to with fresh eyes, because I feel like now that I know so much, it's hard to picture what they're going to be looking at. And
well, and two, I'm not saying it's impossible. It's pretty easy to get around the hearsay rules, in my opinion, because I know them. But Melissa and Jen Abel's text messages are now no longer party opponent statements. So Blake's going to have a hard time introducing them. I mean, she could do impact on the listener, right? So I'm not introducing these for the truth of the matter asserted, but she is. She's introducing them to say they smeared her. Look at what these text messages say. And because of that, she decided to sue. But
can she use Van Zandt to file, or can they use Van Zandt to file a motion in limine to keep the messages out?
I don't know. I mean, it's worth a try.
Right.
And yeah, sure. I think it's worth the motion.
Fritz, if you're here, hopefully you're taking notes.
I don't know that it does. Did she step on a bee? Every time people refer to that, I think of Ever After, when she like freaks out in front of the queen. She's like, there was a bee.
It's a bee.
Yeah, I think you can move to exclude the evidence obtained from the subpoena, but then at the end of the day, it's like, well, but then additionally, we received this evidence from the defendants. So we're not using the information obtained from the subpoena. We're using the information obtained from the defendants during discovery.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because there would have been responsive documents.
Yeah, they would have gotten it anyway. Yeah, that's true.
And I think they made forensic copies of everybody's phone.
Right.
Did you hit the like and subscribe button, Fritz? Hey, Fritzy.
Hey, Fritz. Hey, Jed.
Okay.
You would, and this is a good point too. You want to keep her evidence in because she will say her evidence didn't get shown. Although at this point, I don't know if people that are supporting her are going to be swayed by anything that happens in court. Which is
because it's not going to be televised and readily
Yeah.
available, and we are getting stuff through third parties. I think one of the pro-Lively attorneys will show up because I think she's on the payroll, allegedly, in my opinion. And I think they get their information distilled through a source that speaks to their bias and speaks to their and leaves out the information that they don't want to hear. So I don't know. If I can't go, there's a good chance I order the transcripts.
Do you think, okay, so I've been trying to think about this. So the Taylor Swift of it all. I guess when Same Girl was saying, when Same Girl was saying, Taylor got lied to and she got played, I don't know that I believed it. Like, I just kind of thought, yeah, I don't think but the more that I'm thinking about this, the more I'm thinking that does make sense, because the more I'm reading this and thinking, there's an odd decision being made to kind of abandon this whole situation entirely. Right?
On Taylor's
side.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's not a great case, I don't see the obvious PR abandon your friend of a decade. I mean, when they're texting each other and Taylor is saying, I'll do anything for you, it's like, this is a genuine friendship. So I'm like, I guess I just don't see the Taylor Swift liability as much, because looking at the text messages, I'm like, she was listening to what someone was telling her. She was listening to her friend of a decade. So that does make me wonder if there's something in there from like August of 24 through December of 24.
Right.
That we're not seeing
that
yet.
Turned her.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing too is that Taylor knew from the outset that Blake was going to do anything she could to take over this film.
Right.
So I do wonder, people have said like, oh, Taylor was just going off what her friend told her. One, we don't know that Blake told her she was SH'd. We have no evidence that Blake directly told her that. And more than that, Blake likely didn't tell her that because Taylor knew that Blake thought these guys were ridiculous.
Right.
And that Blake was exerting power over them. And so I'm wondering if when the article came out and Blake started making it about SH, if maybe Taylor was on board the whole time and then started to notice a shift. She's noticing a shift in tone. And then the article drops and Taylor is like, I know this isn't what happened.
Right.
Because I was there the whole time. I mean, it's all pure conjecture. Like, who knows?
It's the other thing. And so, Dan and I have been talking about this. He's invested now.
Yes.
So he's like, okay, let's just talk about witness credibility. And we're trying to think of it from the perspective of like, what's Blake's biggest liability? And it's Jamie. And I don't think it helps her that now that Wayfair is really the main person. Because I know people are blaming Justin still, but it's like, Justin didn't hire the PR. Jamie did. Justin didn't meet with Jed Wallace. Jamie did,
And that's where her strongest evidence being Justin's statements kind of fall flat, because Justin is the one that Blake is targeting. Right. But at the end of the day, he's not the one steering the ship as far as the reaction goes. Right. And I think there's a huge distinction they're going to need to make for the jury there.
Right. And then I think the other part of this is when they ask Jamie, how come you had this view, he's going to say, because there's different allegations that she has brought up against me that are not true. And I was thinking about this. Dan said he thought, I showed him Jamie's deposition. Well, I showed parts of Jamie. I didn't have him read 14 hours of deposition, but I said, the biggest thing is he said, Jamie at the end bringing up those 2 allegations about speaking about his genitalia, speaking about his pornography addiction that were never addressed. He said, I wonder if the lawyers told him to do that, because now they can ask him about that, and then they can reference his deposition as well to kind of show his story's been consistent. And there's these allegations that 2 allegations against Jamie Heath that have never been fully alleged. She hasn't said what it is that happened, what it is that was said. It's in the New York Times article. So it's been all over the place that he had these conversations with her, and she's never said what was in the conversations. So then you've got Jamie saying, well, I think we need to hire crisis PR. And part of it is because the allegations with him are entirely manufactured. I mean, that's what you go with. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie is definitely her biggest obstacle, especially knowing he was the one driving the ship. Right? He's a super reasonable. His impression that he gives is that he's a super reasonable guy. I obviously don't. He seems super reasonable.
Yeah.
So he's gonna probably come off as a really great witness. I also think because Justin is not, here is what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
Justin has been dismissed as a defendant. You don't have anyone at counsel table other than Jamie Heath. So now what you have is Blake Lively, a white woman, making allegations against a defendant, and the defendant is Black.
Okay. Yeah. If I were them, I would keep him away unless he needs to testify.
I would have him at counsel table as the party representative.
Or sorry, I mean Justin. Yeah, I wouldn't have Justin there unless he's testifying
as a witness. But then what you're doing is the optics of it are, I thought I was sexually harassed by these people in this company.
Yeah.
Justin's a defendant, so if he's not party representative, he has to be out in the hallway, so they don't see Justin until he testifies.
Right.
And now you have a white woman accusing a Black man. The racial optics get played up 1,000%.
Right. That's true. Keep Steve Sarowitz away.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what I would do. I'm not seeing any of the pinned.
Sorry. You guys can't see the pinned comments. I'm showing them to Britt. It's a StreamYard thing so that she can see which ones are our questions. So you guys can't see pinned comments.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think, especially all of those allegations against Jamie Heath, right? That he's got a porn addiction and he's talking about his genitalia, but he didn't do any of that.
Right.
And so I think that testimony is coming in anyway. But if you just have a Black face at defense table,
right?
I don't know that plays well. It's a white woman against a Black man, and I don't know that plays well in New York. I don't know New York juries, but
true. Yeah. No, I think you're right though. I think also, what I have said from the beginning is I think the most compelling kind of witness is going to be Steve Sarowitz in a weird way. Like he's going to be, if they can rein him in a little bit, and I've said, I think they need to rein him in, but I also think there's a nice contrast that he can provide when he comes in and says, please show me where I'm expected to lose money because the lead actress in a film I paid for is going off the rails and is answering questions poorly. And we need to hire crisis PR to avoid the film turning into a disaster.
And it's refusing the media training that we are offering, right?
Right.
At one point, Justin does reach out to Sony and says, hey, this is going poorly. What can we do to rein her in? And nobody does anything.
No, that's actually her agent, or not her agent, her person, Greenberg, whatever. His assistant or someone put ignore and then forwarded the email. So they directed them at Sony to ignore it. And so it's going to be like, well, I mean, what can they do?
Right.
And that's kind of the problem where you've got Wayfair having to listen to Sony and everything is going through Sony, and Sony is saying, we can't control her. And so it's like, then you're going to have to say, so Wayfair is trying to get through to Sony. Sony can't get through to Blake, but Blake is somehow, the one in the power struggle. So.
And keep in mind too, I mean, the judge goes through a lot. Like she could have very well subjectively believed she was being SH'd.
Mm-hmm.
I still think the jury can believe that she didn't reasonably believe she was being SH'd.
Right.
Based on all the evidence too, right? So But yeah, and that's that. I'm saying that because that feeds into it, right? You have
Right.
Sony saying we cannot rein this woman in.
Right. Right.
Sony.
And coming across as subject matter experts, they're not expert witnesses, but they're going to say she did this all on her own. She's inappropriate. She's telling people, I'm going to have to retire. And it's like she's telling you she's going to have to retire, but she's not saying I'm the victim of a smear campaign. Or is she saying that as well?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I feel pretty confident saying that I don't think her retaliation claims are going to play well. I don't think this plays well at trial, but who am I?
yeah.
I'm just a lowly attorney in Arizona talking into my camera.
I mean, I will say, having done lots and lots of mock juries as recently as Saturday, I'm still not over it. I'm still like, juries. But as soon as somebody kind of raises an attitude on the stand, that's the first thing the jury are talking about.
Yeah.
They're saying, God, that person was a bitch. Now, sometimes they say like the expert witness is a huge bitch, but I really like what they had to say. Like sometimes they're like, I hate them. But I agree with them. But I do think if she says, like the way she came across in her deposition, did you file an HR complaint? She says, I don't know what that is. I mean, even a hint of attitude on the jury, and they're going to be like, man, I don't like her either. That's, yeah.
And showing, so all of her interviews are statements against party opponent, meaning they are not hearsay and they are admissible.
Yeah.
So even if we don't get it in through Blake's testimony, we get it in through either Justin or Jamie saying, what were you reacting to? And you go, watch what she is doing.
Right.
During the premiere of this movie. And I think the jury is going to have the same reaction the internet did, which was about a DV movie.
Right. And then I think Sarowitz too is just going to say, point me in the direction of where I'm expected to lose money. That seems to be his attitude. And I actually think that might be helpful for the jury to go, yeah, I mean, that's a good point. Are you saying they just have to lie down and take it if it's directly threatening the film that's being released?
Right. And defensive reactions in the press and all that is not retaliation.
Right.
So somebody says, when the judge says the burden of proof falls on her, what does that mean? Because we've seen Wayfair's side. She has the burden of proof at trial. So she has to prove by a preponderance of the evidence, meaning a scintilla more than 50%, right? A feather's weight more than 50%. That they retaliated against her.
Yeah. And the jury's, even if the jury finds that they did something, even if they find they boosted TikToks or whatever, they're also welcome to find that it doesn't count as retaliation. So it's not just that they have to find that something happened. They can find that something happened and say, here's why we don't think it qualifies, either because it wasn't motivated by it or it didn't affect your employment enough, or, and we don't know why juries rule the way they do. So that's going to be the other thing. If they say not liable, we're not necessarily going to know what the logic was. Right. Let's see. What if they lose all the Van Sham text messages? I mean, I think they will get them admitted. I think they will get them admitted.
And I also don't think there are some text messages in there that I will fully admit do not look great for Wayfair.
Right.
At least for Justin.
Yeah.
And Justin is a principal of the company. So, you can make the argument that he's at least helping guide Jamie to steer the ship. Right. Whatever.
Yeah.
But that's their strongest evidence. And we just have so much more, and so much more that we likely haven't seen on Wayfair's side. So based on what we've seen, it's really easy to go into closing and say, when you go back to that jury room, you cannot find retaliation if you found that they were reasonably defending themselves. If they were reasonably defending their movie. Right? And for all the reasons we just said, you can't find for her. Find these guys not liable.
Yeah. I mean, I think somebody said, here, like what it, if we can get and figure out what the heck Jed did, that is the true win, because I want to know what he did for 3 months. And the funniest thing about this is that Lively's own expert data show that whatever he was doing for September and October had no effect on her Google trends, had no effect on her name coming up in negative, had no effect on negative associations with her name.
So 2/3 of the time he's getting paid for.
Right. So I said, well, he didn't get paid to do nothing. And it's like, well, apparently, according to Lively's expert, I'm wrong, because for 2/3 of the time he got paid to do nothing.
Aaron Perez on the It Ends With Us lawsuits did a really good analysis of her expert report. Yeah. Just talking about where he doesn't use like numbers to back up his claims. He just sort of makes conclusory claims. Yeah. I think some, if not all of this expert report gets kicked.
Yeah. I think, and Zane, as weird as this sounds, I agree with you. I think Jed did nothing but is capable of doing some stuff. I think that they had him in case things escalated. And then in September, it didn't escalate. For some reason, everybody was chilling out, maybe because they were planning the Van Zandt thing. They were planning the New York Times article. So it was all going on in the background. But at any rate, I don't think they needed him because...
Well, an issue attention cycle too, right? Like, yeah. The internet had moved on.
Right.
And the graphs show that.
Yeah, the graphs show early September, she moved on. Everything moved on. It was just a, and I part of me just thinks like if you could go back and she hadn't been kind of in attack mode in late September, would things have gone differently? Would she have been able to get somebody to say, hey, let's look at your mentions. Let's see where the numbers are at and see what the best way to get you out of this is.
Yeah.
I don't think the plaintiff, I don't think anybody called for that settlement meeting. I think it's just because the order came out.
I'm wondering if the judge directed the magistrate judge to reach out to everybody like, hey, I just missed the bulk of this complaint. Yeah. Just reach out and see if there's settlement off, because it says the phone call for plaintiff is at 3. The phone call for defendant is at 4 to see if anybody's positions have changed.
Yeah, I don't think it was like, I don't think she's reaching across the aisle to settle at any. I mean, from a PR perspective, I don't think settling is a good idea. I think she should just go with the jury is biased and the jury hates women.
Yeah.
That's the framing that I think is the most helpful for her.
Yeah.
It's expensive,
I agree. And when she loses, and I will eat humble pie if she wins.
Yeah.
When she loses on the bulk of her claims, she may get a breach of contract claim. I doubt it, but
yeah.
When she loses, she then gets to come back to the media and say, it's not fair that the internet gets to be digitally violent and there's no recourse for it.
Right.
And in some ways I agree with her. I just don't think she's the test case for it.
Yeah.
Where her and I differ is I don't think she was a victim. I think she's a perpetrator.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree. I think, like, I just saw this comment. I think Jed was digging or helping. Blake said was desperate for info. I think he was trying to see if they were trying to see things about the studio being a cult. That's a huge part of this case. And the cult thing is a much bigger part of this. It's not something that I think Wayfair brought up, but it does sound like when I went back to her text messages with Taylor Swift, one of the things she said at the beginning was the thing that enrages me more than anything he's done to me. And I tried putting together the timeline to see what is it that he had done that she could be referring to at this point. And it's actually before the weight comment. So it's not even that. It's that he offered to pray for her dad. That's the thing that had already happened at that point.
Right.
So,
and
yeah.
When I say Blake had a smear campaign, I do partly mean she was dropping stories in the media about the Baha'i faith. And you still see that in her subs. They're still attacking people of the Baha'i faith. Little girl attorney included, right? So,
yeah.
But she's going around Hollywood talking about how these guys are in a cult. She's dropping stories in the media about their faith. That is a smear campaign.
Yeah. And it's, Well, and not that I think this is going to be like directly brought up, but this is something that I do think the jury will think is, when she's saying that the people at the studio are in a cult, does that not include the crew members that might be Baha'i and the people that, she's a producer, she's kind of above them.
Right.
I think there is going to be that question of, I do think the religious thing was part of this, and it doesn't mean that, the problem for her is that a lot of her statements, and where if she tries to say, well, everything I said was protected activity because, I was talking about harassment on the set. It's like, well, is there any statements you can point to where you weren't also talking about the religious cult thing?
Right. And in America, in the United States, your ability to worship as you see fit is deeply honored.
Right.
And so I don't know that that's going to play really well for her, that she's saying these guys are in a cult and, all the things she said, they're praying for me or whatever. Like, I don't know that plays well. It's not religious persecution, but it is so deeply ingrained into our psyche as Americans. You cannot separate that from 99% of people who are going to sit on that jury. And I just don't think it plays well.
Right. And it's, that's why I said I will be interested to see why Hassan Minhaj was not part of the unfollow thing. Did they just not know each other during filming? I don't know if they maybe didn't have scenes together, but I'll be interested. I think he's going to be an interesting witness because he seems to have remained closer with Justin Baldoni, and he isn't in any of the group chats with Blake.
Well, he's brown. So,
yes.
You're not going to say it, but I will.
Okay.
Hassan and Blake did have a few scenes together because Hassan plays Jenny's husband, and they all four have scenes together.
And I was kind of saying, like, he's Muslim, and Baha'i it's not related to Islam. It's kind of, I don't know. I think they are to Islam what Unitarians are to Presbyterians, which probably is something that only makes sense to me. But I mean, I will be interested to see his take on why he feels he may not have been involved in ostracizing him to the same degree, and if he thinks if they ever discussed religion on the set. In the deposition.
He also just might be one of those people that's like, you're trying to recruit me to hate somebody that I'm not going to hate.
Right. He's just kind of...
I'm not in high school.
Yeah. He...
No, thank you.
He just... Yeah, like, I'm not getting into this. But he also... I don't know. I find that interesting. I will find it interesting to see what he knew about some of this going on. Was he ever approached? Was it ever, because Sklenar was approached, and Sklenar and Justin had some sort of a friendship, and Isabella had some sort of a friendship. So he seems like kind of the odd man out. And I will be interested to see if the religion played a role there.
What were you going to say about the deposition?
Oh, in the deposition, they asked Justin, I told your set was a Baha'i set. Is that true? And Justin's like, I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know what you mean. Like, and then he doesn't say anything, but I'm like, what did you think he was going to say? Did you think he was going to be like, yeah, we actually recruit people their first day. We tell them that if they don't sacrifice a rabbit by the light of a full moon, they can't be in my movie.
Which the Baha'i, one thing I do know is they do not proselytize.
They're not proselytize. Yeah. Also, like, from hearing Sarowitz and Jamie discuss Justin's faith, it kind of doesn't sound like he's super religious. It just sounds like he was born into it. He knows a lot of Baha'i people.
Yeah.
Like, he's just kind of social, as opposed to, like, being personally, like...
Which is true of a lot of faiths. The people who are born into it are sort of like, yeah, I'm just here. This is what I do.
Meanwhile, Sarowitz is like, I'm building a temple. I'm building a movie theater. I'm going to make a movie about the origins of it, Yeah. So, yeah. It's...
Okay. Gelth Walker says, question for Britt. Did you see or hear Wocab saying now Wayfair can sue for malicious lawsuit both against Blake and her lawyers? And is that possible? Yes. After watching them and how they move for the last 16 months, I do not think they will. I think they want to be done. I think they want to be out. I think they want to move on with their lives. I think that they are not as vindictive as Blake is, and I think if they win, they take that win and walk away or go to appeals court, which is where that's going next.
Or maybe she won't. Maybe she won't appeal.
I think she's better off taking the L and blaming it on the justice system, because that's believable. Like,
Right.
hi, as a member of the justice system, that is not a wrong criticism. It's just she's not the voice and the advocate for it, but
Right. That's, yeah. And I mean, they said they want people to think Baha'i is Scientology. This is the problem. This is where I think the New York jury is going to come in. I think they may have some questions about the faith. I think, Zohran Mamdani is incredibly popular in New York. I think the idea of, well, it's a Muslim faith, we don't have a ton of her text messages about this. We just have it with kind of Ben Affleck and Matt Damon calling the religion a cult. But I'm curious if there is more there. And yeah, that's interesting.
Blake was raised Southern Baptist. I have some thoughts on the Southern Baptist that I will leave at that.
Let's see. This was not intentional. We did not intend to all be green, but
Sarah and I just want everyone to know that we're Irish.
We're Irish, yes.
Leslie calling it a cult to the journalists. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Right? Yeah. They're saying it to people in Hollywood, but they're also saying it to people in the media. And I think that's where, they have this defensive, she can say whatever she wants about us, fine, whatever. We were defending the movie, we were defending our faith, and it got into a line where it became so incredibly personal and unnecessary that we had to stand up for ourselves.
Right. I mean, yeah, this is a good question. How is it cult money if he earned it with an HR process application? I mean, I think some of her statements about Baldoni saying, he only has the film rights because his cult is funding it. I think there's also that part of like, this is threatening the studio, right? This isn't just about him. This is saying that the studio is a cult. This is saying that, and that's when you get into like, does the company have the right to defend itself? So it's not just that she's saying, I've been harassed on set. It's also, these kind of other things. All right, let's see. Who do you think is each side's best witness? I think we know it's Jamie.
Oh, hands down.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for Jamie Heath after watching this lawsuit. And him and his wife just seem like really stand-up people that they vibe, they sit with us, right? Like,
yeah.
But yeah, in his deposition and in the way that he's responding to Stephanie Jones, like he's very kind, but he's also good at being kind and firm.
Yeah. I want that Jones call so bad. That call between him and Jones. I need to hear her go off in a Southern accent. I need to hear the tone.
Does she have a Southern accent?
She does, apparently. She's a Southern drawl. I feel like she's going to sound really like funny and charming. Sure. Like I feel like she's going to sound great, but it's also going to be like you're going to be hearing this insane conversation. So
I think a lot of the PR people are going to come across as charming.
That's a good point. Yeah.
They do PR.
Right. That's
They're
true.
good at selling and they're doing sales essentially.
Yeah. That call, what do you think about the Sean Levy call?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember who it's between.
Sean Levy called Justin Baldoni early on in the process of filming.
Yeah. And said she had like mental health stuff.
Well, he said they had a discussion on how to handle Blake.
Got it.
And what I thought was they have left his name out of this. They have not brought him up. They've not brought up this call. But in the deposition, they seem very concerned about the call, which makes me wonder if there was like a disclosing a mental health issue or something that is embarrassing on the call. And I guess we'll see if there's an in limine motion for the call.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I mean, it's hearsay. It's interesting. I don't know that it's factually relevant.
I mean, this is kind of, could Justin think that was reason to be concerned?
Circling back really quick, though, I think Blake's best witness is Stephanie Jones.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Stephanie Jones is going to screw herself over by testifying for Blake. Because she's going to get on the stand and say, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. And she's going to say all these things that, she told Blake that led Blake to do what Blake did. And now
Right.
Stephanie has a defamation claim against her. And I think all that feeds into that. So, but I think Stephanie is
That's a
probably
good,
Blake's.
yeah.
Taylor would be Blake's best witness if they're still
If she
friends.
testifies for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess we'll see. I would find it very bizarre if it turns out that they're friends. And there's just been zero, because it's not even like, you don't even need to put a statement out there. You just need to say, like, you just need to go to dinner with her. They just need to hit up Nashville and go to the bars for a bachelorette party with Taylor wearing a Mrs. Kelsey sash, right? And then 90% of Blake's PR problems are gone. So,
yeah. Remember Blake Lively telling everyone Justin and Jamie passed Jamie's wife around?
Yeah.
She's evil. The way Natasha Heath got pulled into this has actually made me cry. Like real, actual tears. Now, I'm a crier anyway. You put on the right insurance commercial and your girl is crying, but it's wrong. And we know that's not how they talked about her.
Right. It's just Blake playing into just being racist as fuck. I mean, that's what it is, right? Just making all her accusations are, he can't have a professional conversation. He's just trying to gawk at me. He's showing me porn of his wife. His wife is also Black. So, it's just racist tropes about Black men being sexually aggressive, being incapable of being professional.
Quick correction. Natasha is Colombian.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. Still a woman of color.
Still
right?
one of color. Yeah.
And I think that's part of it too, is it's just like the end to the racism knows no bounds.
Right. I mean, and that's kind of the thing, just assuming that people are going to immediately kind of believe, oh, yeah, and then, and he runs the set like a barbecue.
I can't.
It also just makes me think like you can tell it's not 2016 anymore, because like an A-lister, which I think she is by name recognition, is texting another person false accusations and then also saying he runs the set like a barbecue, and no mainstream media has picked up on that.
Yeah.
Where's
Gawker when you need him?
Right? So I mean, all that together, and that's the thing. Jamie's there's not one allegation against Jamie that I'm confident is going to be believed by the jury.
Right.
I think they're just going to say she's making it up.
Right. And, she's been problematic from day one.
Yeah.
She's been uncontrollable from day one. She's been overstepping from day one. And then it got into a realm where it was mean and it was personal and it was smearing them and it was coming after the studio and it was hurting the movie, and they had to do something because they watched her escalate from day one. Yeah.
It's, and then the question is how, I mean, that's, and just putting all of this together kind of, so Natasha, I believe, is like a midwife, and she is like, I saw her social media stuff very, very early on in all this, and it was very similar.
I have so many friends in the healing, like, birthing world. I think that was the other reason I cried too, is like, she seems like somebody I would be friends with. And so it was definitely projection. I will give that to you guys. Like, whatever.
You could always make her a seashell wind chime and see if she would like it.
Should I send them all seashell wind chimes
when they win? Seashell wind chimes.
chimes.
Then we've got Brian Friedman doing his victory call from his office, and there's a little seashell wind chime in the background. There you go. I'm pretty sure no. Michelle, thank you for the super chat, but they will not be able to bring in Amanda Ghost.
No. It's character evidence. So Rule 404 says you cannot bring evidence from another incident to show that the defendant acted in the same way in this incident, with a few exceptions. Modus operandi, which means you have to have some sort of very specific calling card. It can't just be you harass somebody over here, so you harass somebody over here. You retaliated. You created this law, this website. You retaliated against somebody, so you did it over here. You have to show like this is your specific brand of retaliation that looks a certain way and all that. So, and they can't do that with this.
That's, yeah, God, this is a mess. I'm just trying to think how the jury is going to walk in, because now I'm thinking I know all of this stuff. So what are they going to come in with, right? They're going to come in with Wayfarer is the defendant, and it ends with us movie, but that's basically Jamie and then you know you've got everybody else kind of a witness. And then Melissa Nathan, let's leave Melissa Nathan out for a second. Just pretend she gets dismissed, or the agency group gets dismissed. What we have is Lively is suing Wayfarer. And it's just because she's saying that they retaliated against her for complaining about harassment, but we don't have those harassment claims. So the jury's going to think, what do they tell the jury? Do they say
I've been circling around this in the lawyer chat for days. How do we handle that? I think we'll have a better idea at motions in limine.
Okay.
Because they have to have some sort of idea of what her protected activity was. And if that's the 17-point list, we get some testimony about her believing they were harassing her.
Right. I would say because Lyman seems to think it's the 17-point list. That was like what he basically used. So if that's the argument, everything that is mentioned in that 17-point list, which is most of it.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's most of it. I think most of her allegations are related. Yeah. And then the jury's going to be like, well, why isn't she suing for sexual harassment?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword, right? Because on one hand, you have a jury going, well, did they already get found liable for the sexual harassment? Are they not liable for it? Like, you have to be really delicate about that. But the jury is going to be very confused as to why are we at retaliation and not sexual harassment?
Yeah, they're just going to tell them basically this: you're not here to decide if she was sexually harassed. You only have to find that there was protected activity.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think the jury will sit back and say, wouldn't she sue? Yeah.
Gloria, the content creator subpoenas will not come into this trial. Yeah. So typically things you do during discovery are considered a choice of the lawyers more than a choice of the client.
Can they passive aggressively bring it up and say how many content creators did you subpoena? And then if they say 125, and then they say how many of them provided you with relevant information?
I think you can get it in that way, but I don't think
you can't like go into the whole thing. Yeah. Yeah.
And you can say like, how many people did you seek out? How much, how much? I think you can get it in. I think you get it in through the expert, not through Blake. But at the end of the day, I don't know that a jury is going to see it in the way that it actually happened.
She did bring it in.
The expert.
No, yeah, because one of the experts screenshotted a negative comment about Blake, and it mentioned the subpoenas. I don't think I ever pointed this out to you. Yeah, one of her experts.
I think you have.
Okay, yeah, one of her experts screenshotted comments and said, this is some of the ongoing harassment that Lively is facing. And the person was saying, like, you may subpoena all these people that are just saying the truth about you. So maybe they'll ask the expert, hey, what does this mean? Because it would be funny if the expert is like, I don't know what that means. And it's like, well, why did you screenshot the comment for your expert witness report if you don't know what they're referring to?
Right.
I don't know.
I missed the comment that you just... Does it go away automatically?
It doesn't. I clicked something.
The 17-point list tracked with what was needed in the PGA letters. So, I think Blake's saying there was nothing wrong after the 17-point agreement is going to hurt her because if nothing was wrong. I agree. And
right.
So Little Girl Attorney was talking about how in California, it's a little bit different. It's not a causation.
Yeah.
It's you have to show that they had intent to retaliate, which I think is kind of harder to prove because proving somebody intended something without them saying, let's go retaliate now, is a matter of circumstances. But yeah, I think that she's really going to have a hard time saying they intended to retaliate against me 8, 9 months later, when they're like, I just wanted to be done with you forever. And you kept dragging us into the media, and you kept dragging us through the mud, and you kept.
Right. You're telling everyone that our religion is a cult. And I think that's just it. That's where Jamie comes in, because Jamie's going to say, I think this woman is falsifying allegations against me. And he said it at the time, you know, he said, I didn't do these things. So it's like, I don't know what they're going to do. What's their next move, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. I do think the Sony comments are going to come in. I think the Sony stuff, calling her a terrorist, all of that, because I think where that comes in is Wayfair's reaching out to Sony in an attempt to stop her from promoting the film in a particular way. And I think this is a huge thing, because it's like, okay, so they're making her look bad on the internet while simultaneously telling her to stop looking bad on the internet. Wouldn't they want her to continue to give bad interviews so that they can continue to use it against her, to weaponize it against her? So that's where they're going to reach out to Sony and say, tell her to shut the fuck up.
You can also this is the kind of stuff you bring into, I'm going to say impeach. It's not an actual impeachment. I should use a different word. To call into credibility her expert witness. So you're saying that they retaliated against her. And right, like you were just saying, you're saying that they're spreading bad information about her online. Have you considered the email where?
Yeah.
Did you consider this as a part of your expert report? Oh, you didn't? Did you consider this as a part of your expert report? Oh, you didn't? So they're trying to clean stuff up on their end, and you're saying they then turn around and retaliate? Why should this jury believe you?
Right. It doesn't.
Experts are going to get eaten alive.
Yeah. I mean, her experts just were ill prepared. I mean, this is part of the thing I've done with expert witnesses is I've just sat there, and not even as a jury, but they introduce me to it. The expert says something I don't know anything really about other than the case, what they're telling me. And I just start asking the expert questions. Well, how does this work? How does this work? And then, you know, like either because I didn't understand what the expert was saying, or I say like, but that doesn't make sense because you said this over here. So, I mean, this is something that I've actually done for attorneys in their actual cases. And
if you grilled me like that, I'd be like, yeah, I quit. Never mind.
that's what I mean. So when I'm sitting here and I'm reading this expert witness, and I'm like, but did you read the PGA letter? And it was funny because Not Actually Golden, when I saw her video later, we did the exact same thing. Control F, exhibit number, PGA letter, right? Yeah. Because it's like, well, did you read the PGA letter? Why didn't you read this? Why do you think it's not important? I think it's important. How come you don't think it's important?
Especially with the Darvo expert.
Right.
Oh, you didn't read this? So
why didn't
she has all this power and control. Isn't power and control an important aspect of abuse?
Right. But also, just to me, it's like the PGA letter is basically, as far as I've seen, the only contemporaneous description of what Blake thought she did for the film. Yeah. Right. It's not just something she's talking about in an interview. It's not where she's trying to talk herself up. This is what she represented professionally to other professionals about what the job was, how she experienced it, what her contributions were. So it's like, yeah, you need to know that if you're looking at an employee harassment case.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
But yeah, that's the fun part, is when they're like, we just want you to read this. Then I'm like, I didn't understand this, you know, and they're like, well, I explained it. And I'm like, well, I didn't understand it. So try it again.
Yeah, it's there's so much evidence out there that I don't think her experts considered that will call into, right? And so just so you guys know, we look at experts through a case called Daubert. It's the Daubert standard. I don't even remember the full case title, but it's, do you have the right person with the right kind of expertise who is using the right type of information and the right methodology, and then processing that information correctly through that methodology. Mm-hmm. And so we're looking at, you know, acceptable mechanisms in like the scientific or whatever, the generally accepted mechanisms within the field. And then did they come to the right opinion based on those processes, right? Like that's generally what we're looking at. And so when I say you call into question the expert, you may be able to get the expert kicked because you say, Your Honor, this witness didn't, she's talking about power dynamics. She's talking about abuse. And she didn't look at the one thing that shows the power dynamic more than anything. Right? So you say she didn't look at the right type of evidence. She doesn't meet the Daubert standard. She can't testify in front of this jury.
Right. And I mean, that's, yeah, it just, the whole, she doesn't have the information needed to testify to the power dynamics with Sony and Wayfair. I think that's it. I think it's the whole thing. The other thing is she's making inappropriate comments like this increases Lively's risk of self-harm and suicidal ideation. She can't testify to that. She has not done a forensic examination of the client.
And we don't have medical records.
We don't have her medical records. We have no idea if she's got pre-existing mental health conditions that would add to that. She can't start testifying and say Lively's at increased risk of self-harm. Like,
right. The client told me she was going to kill herself. Okay. That's a bummer, dude.
Yeah, but she didn't put her medical records in there, so yeah.
That's not the right type of information that you're allowed to process through this system, right?
Right. There's a way to do that. And yeah, so there's going to be Daubert motions due April 24th. So we're going to see the challenging of those expert witnesses. And those are going to be, and I mean, I don't think there's a single expert witness where I think they did okay, I will say her damages guy. I mean, he said, assuming the smear campaign happened, and this is what I'm looking at with the expert. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. He's just an accountant. Yeah. He's fine. But I mean, the Darvo lady, sorry to the Darvo lady for continuing to call her the Darvo lady. But then I started calling her Dr. Darvo, and that's kind of worse.
I've never remembered a name in my life. It is not you. It is me.
Jennifer
I
Freed.
will admit it. Yeah. Dr. Freed didn't get the information that she needed.
Yeah.
And I do not think that she is stupid or an idiot.
No.
But at the end of the day, she was given the information that they needed her to have to come up with the opinion that she did. She came up with that opinion, and then they spun it for PR.
Right.
And that's all they needed from her.
And Tiffany, they will not be able to make new reports. Discovery is done.
What likely happened, though, is if there was a competing report. Right? So if Wayfair hired their own expert and disclosed that report, you then give that report to Dr. Freed, and Dr. Freed is allowed to respond.
Right.
So that may have happened. I don't know if it did.
Yeah.
It's easier to get an expert witness kicked if you have a competing expert, because you say, this is also an expert in this field with same or similar credentials. And they're saying you're using, whatever technology that we don't accept in the industry.
And even her smear campaign expert used Ryan Reynolds and her as search terms. There's no pure search just on Lively. It was all Reynolds and Lively.
Oh, interesting.
And that's going to be, I don't know if they're allowed to do that. I mean, I suppose she's allowed to argue her husband, they went after her husband to get at her. But I just don't think the jury is going to go for that. I think the jury is going to say, if I'm an employee and my boss sexually harasses me and my husband rolls up in the fucking parking lot and says, get out here and get your ass in the parking lot and we're going to start punching each other. That's not like retaliation. That's just you guys. Like, if Ryan Reynolds is going to WME, if he's making Nice Pool, I will be curious to see if Nice Pool comes in.
Yeah.
Because,
and keep in mind too, that's where their dismissal actually works in their favor.
Right.
Your Honor, actually, we should keep out all testimony about the search terms that came up Ryan Reynolds, right? This portion of this report actually shouldn't be allowed, because if Your Honor will remember, you kicked those claims. We're not talking about Ryan Reynolds. He is not a party.
Yeah, he's not a party.
He invoked spousal privilege. He wasn't able to be deposed. What's he doing here?
So Tiffany said, what was their play to have their experts write reports without all the information, make it make sense? I have theories.
I have theories too. I think it was for PR. I think it was to get her, because with limited information, she does look like a victim.
Yeah.
you can make anybody look like a victim with the right set of, cherry picked facts.
I also think there's she asked them to produce a report that says something, and they did that. Right? You can get an expert to say anything you want, and you can always cherry pick data. You can always cherry pick data and get it to say whatever you want. And then the problem is you're going in front of the jury with weak data.
Yeah.
So, maybe they didn't think they'd get here.
I think Nice Pool comes in just as a part of the defense that
he rerouted the $150 million film, or whatever the budget is. I don't even know. It's probably $250 million or something. He rerouted and rewrote an entire character to design him around this man.
Yeah.
And then shot him on stage, or shot him on screen, murdered his character, who's the only variant of Deadpool that stays dead.
Right.
And then his wife is out here posting about the physical effects of digital violence.
Right. I mean, Steve Sarowitz, there will be 2 dead bodies by the time I'm done. That's violence.
Right.
But Nice Pool dying, not violence.
Right.
And Steve Sarowitz, by the way, clarifies immediately and is like, I don't mean like actually dead. I just mean like dead to me.
Yeah. I don't think, how do we feel about Taylor's involvement with the New York Times? I don't know that she was involved. She was aware of it.
She was involved in that she was an intermediary in getting the text messages. She was involved in that we have text messages hyping up Blake saying, "You're the first person in history to uncancel yourself." Jokes on Taylor. Ooh.
Isn't that Taylor? Isn't she the first person to uncancel herself?
Yeah.
Like, maybe she doesn't think she's uncanceled.
She's like, I have to physically hide away for a year.
You should go back to doing that.
Make people miss you. That's just good advice, no matter who, no matter where. Let people miss you.
Yeah.
We don't need to be available all the time. At this point, I'm going to start calling Taylor a content creator, because I'm like, she pumps out content the way content creators do.
Which reminds me, we still have to do our showgirl hour.
I know. I'm still avoiding it. Yeah, I don't know Taylor's involvement with the New York Times. I mean, Leslie had the connection with Tui. I think Taylor's involvement is more just hyping Blake up behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Taylor may have connected with Ronan Farrow to get in touch with Megan Tui. I really don't know. I thought it was Leslie, because Leslie had worked with Tui during the Weinstein article that she wrote. So
I mean, there's so much about August through December of 24 that we just don't know.
Yeah.
And that's right where Lively is saying this retaliation campaign happened. She's saying it started kind of end of July 2024 and went through February the 18th. So, yeah.
Taylor was with Ronan Farrow, and she texted Blake Lively saying she won. You did it, when the New York Times hit piece was turning. Candace called it out right away.
Okay. Michelle, thank you for the super chat. Has she provided the metadata from the 17-point list? She has. I haven't seen it.
It was the 30-point list that she didn't provide the metadata for.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So,
so at the January 4th meeting, she was reading something off of her phone that she later claimed was a 30-point list. And the version that she submitted in discovery was dated July of 2025. So obviously we know there's a version from 2024 because we all saw it. It was attached to that New York Times article. So what we don't have is a version from 2023, 2024. Will they keep it out with an in limine motion?
I would imagine. I don't know that she needs it. I think the 17-point list is stronger because they signed it.
Well, the 30-point does say no more doing this. So that's a better protected activity argument.
Okay. I could see that. Yeah.
Because if you're saying no more, then it's like, because then that's where I would see a jury saying, well, if you're saying no more, I mean, then you're obviously something happened, right?
Right. Did it?
I mean, as long as she gets to say exactly what happened and she doesn't, nobody gets to argue with her, nobody is allowed to disagree, then it happened.
Sure.
Also, thank you guys. There's 295 of you in my live. Hello.
Did the document they signed say no more? No.
No.
That was just the 30-point list.
Yeah, she just
was
read
that
it.
No more hugging on set?
No more. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, it was like no more calling people sexy. No more.
She have, as usual, docket updates is
Where is Tarakeet? I can't pin comments.
where is Tarakeet? Hang on. Oh. Where is Tarakeet? Yeah, we didn't get an expert witness report from them. So, I mean, I guess they could have other expert witness reports that they could bring up in trial. Like, we haven't seen every expert witness report necessarily because we only saw the ones that are part of motions for summary judgment. So,
right.
You know,
which again, you're using your strongest undisputed evidence.
Right.
Not strongest evidence, undisputed evidence. What did you think of her dragon emoji? I thought Katie and Casey had the funniest comment where she was like, do you think the conversation was, do we use this dragon or this dragon? Look, obviously she's signaling it's an Easter egg. It's branding.
She's reclaiming it like Taylor did with the Reputation tour.
Yeah. Weren't there contemporaneous messages between Justin and Jamie disputing the validity of the inference from this list that the behavior had been going on when most of it hadn't? Yeah, so real time, or like that next day, Justin texts all his friends and he's like, they're making me seem to be this predator, this stuff. This is not who I am. So I'm wondering if he gets in testimony about his hospitalization.
You know, it would come in with the personal trainer stuff, right? Because he has health issues. He said he didn't want to lift her or something because of his back.
But he was hospitalized from like extreme anxiety from dealing with Blake.
Oh,
I don't mean to laugh. It's not funny, but
no, but
he was hospitalized.
I thought it was like a back injury or something.
I think it was from anxiety. I could be wrong.
Oh, okay. Shit.
I could be wrong. He had extreme anxiety and was hospitalized for a few days.
I am still interested in that January 4th meeting with Ryan Reynolds allegedly telling Justin Baldoni, why can't you be more like your business partner? The business partner that walked in on your wife when she was in a state of undress in her trailer, the business partner that talked about his genitals and pornography addiction to your wife, the business partner that showed her pornography of his own wife or some sort of inappropriate video of his own wife, the one who joked about passing her around, that guy, you want him to be more like that guy?
Yeah.
Or had you guys not made that up yet? Like,
that's the one.
Yeah. Oh, he was hospitalized due to a spinal infection.
Oh, he was. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was wrong.
So, well, I mean, back and maybe inflammatory. I don't know. You're the massage therapist.
Which makes me obviously a medical expert.
Obviously, yeah. You're our expert witness here.
Although having the background in biology, I do understand biology like this much more than other attorneys.
There you go. I mean,
it's enough.
And it's like that with math. It's like that with anything. They're just like, I don't know.
Whitney in the Garden said, I appreciate that Britt will admit when she's wrong, unlike the other lawyers who look, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And I try to say it because I don't like misinformation. And if I'm the one spreading it, I want to be really clear when I'm wrong. But thank you for saying that. That's very kind. And people get stuff wrong. Like, it just
everybody does it. Yeah.
To pretend we don't is like,
Thank you,
People who act
Khaleesi.
like they're right all the time are like, what?
Well, and it's more about their own brand.
Sure.
It's more about their own content. But Khaleesi, do you feel like buying Sara coffee or Mibster? I forget now already where the Mibster thing came up. It came up like I was drinking Monster Energy on that 3-hour live where I read the whole motion for summary judgment. Just as we all slowly lost our sanity.
Had Blake pulled some BS like this on me, I would have been hospitalized with a Crohn's flare.
I remember this too. I think Justin. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
He said in a text to the group about how it was something that Colleen landed him in the hospital. Okay.
Yeah.
The infection was stress from Colleen Hoover. Oh, interesting.
She's going to be an interesting witness. She said in an interview like a couple weeks ago that the director of It Ends With Us did a really great job.
Which one? Blake or Justin?
Yeah. Well, I mean, no, she said the director did such a good job and the actors did such a good job. Like she was just very, and I'm like, interesting.
I don't think she plays well in front of a jury because she's so unpredictable. Her story has changed from person to person.
Yeah.
I think she's one of those people that's going to be really easy to impeach.
The biggest problem with this case is that for all the celebrity and all the drama and the Taylor Swift and infections and everybody going to the hospital and all this drama, at the end of the day, every juror is going to have seen a discrimination case. They're going to have seen people being mistreated in a workplace, and they're going to have been trained on what to do. And they're going to have run into personality types where someone is not doing a good job or is a high conflict individual in a workplace and makes it everyone else's fucking problem. It's like, it is such a basic, like, human psychology kind of case at the end of the day. Like, everyone's going to have said, I've had a coworker like this.
Get me 2 Black women on that jury.
Yep.
And Blake is done.
It's
because Black women deal with this personality type from white women all the fucking time. It's
just a high conflict, recruit everyone, right to comfort.
Insidious, recruiting people to get on your side, trying to destroy your entire life.
Right.
Yeah. And again, if you have a Black man at counsel table and nobody else.
And the head of HR is a Black woman. It's, somebody said, let's see where I just saw it. I bet so in the voir dire process, they are going to get something called peremptory challenges. I want to say they get 4 in federal court. So they're going to be able to strike 4 people. Now they don't have to disclose the reason right off the bat, but if they try to block 4 people of color, you bet your ass this is going to be a whole thing. And voir dire is public. So if they do that, the argument's going to happen. I mean, it might happen in a sidebar. They're probably not going to say it in front of the jury. They're not going to say the other side's racist in front of the jury, but they're
going to say it in front of the people who are sitting there.
Yeah. I mean, well, yeah, like the jury, the potential jurors usually get moved to another room. But they're going to say it in front of, if there's a reporter, if somebody's sitting in for a voir dire, if there is live voir dire, I'm literally going to take the day off work so that I can see if I can watch it through like a live stream. Some courts do that.
Federal court doesn't allow recording of any kind.
But they did. Oh yeah, they didn't with the oral arguments either. Never mind.
Not a recording to call in, and I imagine that's in chambers.
Well, I've seen it. Okay, so at a federal court, it's a criminal court in Colorado. They had it. And then they also streamed it to the room next door so that people who were sitting in that second room could watch it. But yeah, you're right. They're not going to have a call-in number. All right. Well, never mind. But if anything happens, I'm going to be all over that because if they start trying to exclude.
Buy Sara a coffee. And if we all buy her enough coffees, maybe she can fly to New York.
I'll just fly.
Just for 1 year.
I'll drink my enough coffee that I can flap my wings and fly to New York. So they do not have to have a certain amount of people. It really is dependent on who shows up for jury duty. I mean, theoretically, you could have a world where only white men show up for jury duty. And that's happened in rural areas at times, where only white people show up or only women show up. I've seen one voir dire where it was all women. There's one man. And it was just because he was the only guy who showed up. And I just remember he walked in and he said something like, "I'm not getting out of this, am I?" And I was like,
well, fuck.
yeah, because I mean, they kind of have to go with, and if that's fine. I mean, if, as long as you can show that, like, that's how it played out, and not like, not that the juries and, you know, the attorneys didn't make it that way.
Yeah, to your point, if they just immediately dismiss 4 Black people and can't explain why.
Yeah.
If they're all lawyers, different story, right?
Right.
They have some sort of legal background. You can say lawyers are idiots that are always trying to taint the jury with their stupid external knowledge. I hate preemptory challenges.
You're in the right state.
Yeah.
In the right state. Arizona doesn't have them anymore.
We got rid of them. And according to the people who got rid of them, whatever committee that was, they said that the studies show that preemptory challenges don't account for bias in the way they're meant to, right? So their preemptory challenges are sort of to get rid of people who would have a strong bias that would sway the jury. And it's just, the studies are showing that's not really how you would account for that.
You can't just look at somebody and voir dire is very, very complicated. The other thing is, people can start out when we're questioning them and they can seem biased, and then by the end they can be persuaded. And sometimes the people who come across like they're really not going to side with you, you know, will suddenly they'll like an attorney, or they'll be like, "Oh, I never thought of it that way." You know, it's just,
the jury that mean mugged me the whole time was on my side.
Right? They're just like, and there's a lot of times where like the jury sits down and they're like, "Man, that lawyer was a bitch." I agree with her though. Yeah, you know. And I mean, sometimes they're like, "Well, that guy was a charmer, but was he full of shit?" You know, like, I mean, Blake, for a man had a mostly white jury, I think in Ohio.
Yeah. And Blake will struggle to whitewash in New York. I mean, keep in mind too, often women are the most critical of other women. Right. So convincing women might be a struggle too, because we've all had experiences, and you're gonna tell me someone calling you sexy, watching someone's birth scene of his wife when you're a mother of 4. That's what you call sexual harassment.
This is why I said
somebody grabbed me in the boob the other day. Like,
I was saying in the motion in the last. Nobody actually grabbed you at work. Yeah. I mean, young Zane. So in a weird way, on the one hand, young white men, right? You don't want people who are older, because they're going to have experience in the workplace, and they're going to see the corporate need. They're going to see what the company's doing. They're going to be more likely to have positions of power or management positions, and they might be more sympathetic to Heath or to Wayfair. But the flip side is, young white men might be great for her in that sense, but on the other hand, cancel culture, right? Anti-woke, right? The Me Too movement and skepticisms around being wrongfully accused of something, and feeling like you need to protect yourself because what if a woman wrongfully accuses you, or they're falsifying something? And that's where young white men are then your liability. Yeah. Because they're the most,
And it's tough to know. I mean, you can't get into people's political affiliations. You can't get into people's, I mean, depending on you're not going to just say, I'm going to dismiss all the.
Yeah, you can't dismiss like Republicans, but you can. Yeah.
So, and they'll post the voir dire questions on the docket, right? So
yes, they will.
we will get Sara back to discuss, but it's just like, to your point.
Yeah.
It's really hard to control for the way people are going to respond to a situation. I mean, you may have somebody that's like, believe women, absolutely, but also my brother was falsely accused. So,
right.
You know,
and even just, you know, believe women, but also I've been in management positions for 15 years. And I know that a lot of times, you know, there's a correlation between discrimination complaints and low performers.
Yeah.
You know, and that is, you know, that it could, obviously there's no causation there, right? Somebody could be doing a bad job at work because they're being discriminated against. But the point is that from a management perspective, they're like, you know, sometimes people say this on their way out the door. Sometimes they say this because there's a professional conflict. Sometimes someone doesn't get along with people. They're a high conflict personality in the workplace. And then they believe it's on account of protected activity, you know, or protected class. So
I think conservatives are not with the Me Too movement, so in that area they might be good. Yeah, I mean, or, you know, they see this beautiful blonde woman and a
and the
black
black man,
man,
yep,
and then their biases and prejudices
yeah.
play. So it's just really hard to know where to get a full picture of somebody's background and what their biases are is really, really difficult.
Yeah. I think this, they're going to see how many concessions they made for Blake down to editing the film. I think that's another thing. They're going to see her with an unusual level of influence in a workplace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
The
yeah.
DoorDash is recent too, right? The DoorDash lady that
It,
walked into the
yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, we just have enough incidents, you know, people are coming in with what they know. It's hard to say.
I mean, yeah, they never even pushed back to force her to sign the contract. And I think where it also just goes down is Wayfair, Sony, Lively, right? Wayfair is going to Sony, say, please do something about this. Sony is saying, well, we can't because Blake's a terrorist. And now Blake is trying to convince you that she is on the bottom of the ranks here. Like she's just a lowly little employee, you know.
Can the attorneys see?
No. They
So you
cannot
don't
see
know what
jurors'
neighborhood they live
addresses.
in. Yeah.
Yeah. You can. They'll ask if they're a resident of New York City, but they won't be able to know more than that. They'll
Can you
ask.
ask their income?
No, you can ask their profession, so you
I
can get kind of a
guess.
sense of that. You can also ask how long they've been a resident of New York City,
Okay.
which might give you some insight into general income.
It's been
But
so long since I've seen a voir dire because I lived with a prosecutor. Not romantically. I just had a roommate that was a prosecutor and he'd bring
yeah,
that shit home.
this should so potential voir dire questions should get posted on Friday. That is going to be there. I'm assuming they're going to argue over some of this. This this is interesting. This is an interesting part of this because I'm curious about the jury consultant thing going on. I don't think jury consultants are really going to be that meaningful in this case, but I also feel like jury consultants for Blake's side could have been a way of getting a lot of extra income from Manhattan and Phelps. Like they could have said, we're going to hire this, we're going to do this, we're going to do mock juries, we're going to do all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I made that comment, like Blake needs to wear like light blue and like a sweater or something demure to her deposition. And then I saw a news article that said she wore a light blue fuzzy sweater. And I was like, they've got consultants. They've got people. She paid $10,000 to someone to tell her to wear light blue. So I'm interested to know if that's like, well, I'm interested to see, is the voir dire just going to be really fucking basic and they're just going to like, I could see the voir dire just being like, we both stipulate to it, jury instructions are fine. Like, and not actually a fight. And then I could also see some knockdown drag out.
Yeah.
We can't have the jury instruction say this sentence because Miss Lively feels that it's too biased, you know? So, and now the jury is, you know, the last decider.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's in a jury's hands. I mean, we have some fights between now and then.
Yeah.
We have some more procedural fights. Animal sense evil. Yes. Golden rule motion in limine.
Yeah.
Somebody asked me on YouTube, if it's not allowed, why would you file a motion in limine? And the answer is that's just to be clear that this person, right, to give it a really clear appealable issue. It's the same reason you would file any motion in limine. Like, this type of evidence isn't allowed, and we want it strictly barred so that if it comes in, there are serious consequences. As opposed to like, well, I didn't know I wasn't allowed to testify to that, right?
Right.
This sort of idea of harmless error. But yeah, she can't sit up there and say, I'm doing this for all of women. Think about your children. Think about your daughters. Think about what you would do if you were treated this way at work. She has to say, here's what I
Yeah.
think. Here's what I experienced. Make this decision about me.
Yeah.
I love the golden rule more than anything.
Um,
And I actually,
I don't know what this means.
I emailed Brian on your behalf.
What does this mean? What do you mean?
Rule?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Oh, the golden rule. Did you email? Oh, that's amazing.
Did you drop my name? Because I
Just
don't
links to YouTube.
Yikes.
Yeah, I mean it's the
Brian's
same user.
probably like, that's the woman that kind of hates me. And look, Brian, I don't hate you. I just think you're a lot. You're a little extra.
I just saw a comment that's going to make you happy and I've lost it. It's going to make you so happy.
Yeah, it's kind of like bowling with bumpers, right? Like did you see that Sony is being sued over Ryan?
Okay, so I'm going to read the article.
Wait, who is suing Sony?
I'm going to share the article. Hang on. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so
I did see this.
A high-stakes legal showdown surrounding Ryan Reynolds' Bye 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 dance in the recent Deadpool movie and Fortnite. Sony is reportedly facing a lawsuit, leaving fans and industry insiders anxiously awaiting the outcome. Okay, so the choreographer is suing Sony Music Holdings, alleging the unauthorized utilization of his choreographic work in Deadpool, Wolverine, and Fortnite. Asserts that Sony exceeded its authority by licensing Henson's work without requisite permission. Okay.
Which whose decision was that? It would be hilarious if they pull in Ryan Reynolds as a necessary third party if he made that decision.
Huh.
Also, it's just now sort of clicking for me that Sony did Deadpool.
Yeah.
Is it moving to Paramount now that
it's Sony Music Holdings. So it's Henson v. Sony Music Holdings.
Oh, interesting.
Is the docket. So the parties are Darren Henson and Sony Music Holdings.
Who's a publisher, music publisher.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sony licensed the dance to Marvel. So Sony didn't make the film. They licensed the music to Marvel.
Got it. Okay. Because I was like, doesn't Marvel Studios do... I just had a moment of like, I just realized I know nothing about Marvel other than I want to know nothing about Marvel.
Yeah. So
and Nice Pool.
Just from like a surface level skimming, it's Sony Music has the rights to Bye Bye Bye. They licensed it out to Deadpool, to Marvel to use in Deadpool, and then we're going to see emails where Ryan is like, I'm going to fire everyone if they don't let me do this. I'm going to set fire to your homes, allegedly on information and belief. Yeah. So, I mean, so I don't know if Ryan Reynolds is going to be I don't know if Ryan Reynolds would be involved in that unless he
got it.
Was in that conversation.
Yeah.
But even then it seems like he doesn't know how Sony licenses the music. Like,
that should be a shirt, Jill. I love Brian Friedman. Look, Brian Friedman is a certain archetype in the profession that can be very annoying to litigate against. I do not know Brian Friedman. He might actually be lovely in private conversations.
Right.
I doubt he was lovely here because they have been oddly obsessed with Brian Friedman in a way that I find completely unprofessional.
I mean, it's Taylor. It's got to be right.
That's attacking Brian Friedman?
No. I mean, it's got to be because Taylor's dad presumably reached. I mean, I guess they've been going after him since earlier than that, but
Gottlieb just released a statement that was like, Brian Friedman doesn't understand the court's order. And I'm like, what is your deal?
Yeah.
I think it's WME.
It could be, yeah.
Pure conjecture, but early on we have some text messages saying Brian's not afraid to go after WME, and I think there's a little bit of, fine, let's go after Brian then. I pure speculation, you guys. I don't know, but I will say it's just Brian's public-facing persona is a certain archetype that annoys me in this profession. That's it. Again, I'm projecting.
When I was a kid, I really wanted to be Johnny Cochran when I grew up, to the point where one Halloween I wanted to dress as Johnny Cochran, and my mom was like having to convince me that I couldn't do blackface in Los Angeles in 1994 and go door to door and tell people I was Johnny Cochran, and I was devastated. So she had to bait me into being Princess Jasmine. There you go. That's what my childhood was like.
You know what? Shout out to your mom. Not something I'm going to say a lot, but shout out to your mom.
Right.
For that like one thing.
I did try to get a suit so that I could dress like him. And then my dad said, well, she could be Malcolm X. But then that all roads kind of did lead to me at 6 years old as a redheaded Irish girl trying to do blackface and then having to say no.
I like that you wanted to be a black man.
Yeah, I had a picture of Malcolm X and another picture of Johnny Cochran next to my bed. Like, I had Disney princesses and stuff too, but I also had Malcolm X and Johnny Cochran.
I love that.
So I was obsessed with Princess Jasmine because she had a tiger. And then I also had a picture that I took from a tabloid of Johnny Cochran.
Princess Jasmine is the correct choice in your favorite princess.
Yes. She has a tiger. Actually, it was really just the tiger. It wasn't really anything else. It was just she has. Yeah.
Good kitty. Take off your clothes. Have you heard that? Have you seen that?
I have no idea what you
So when Aladdin comes up, we have digressed, y'all. I'm so sorry. We will get back to the case. This is really important. So Aladdin comes up on his little whatever, and Raja comes over.
Yeah.
And is like, right, and growling at him.
Yeah.
And the way his dialogue with the cat growling, it sounds like Aladdin is saying, good teenagers take off their clothes.
What was he saying?
Good kitty, take off and go.
Oh, okay.
I think he says good teenagers take off their clothes.
This is like the Little Mermaid tower thing
totally.
In the cover.
Yeah. I lived on Snopes.com as a kid. Lived.
That is a deep... I forgot about that.
Yeah. I lived on Snopes.com. I would just deep dive the shit Disney did. Didn't Blake call Justin Aladdin? See, we tied it back to the case.
There we go. There's our pivot.
I did email Brian and said you were the golden rule lover. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't want him or anything, thinking it was my idea. A good idea is a good idea.
That's great. I love that.
I love it. Brian, if you want a girl to help you with settlements, you call me, because I would love to get out of litigation.
If you want a jury I'm not a jury consultant. If you want just a random person who will sit on a webcam and yell at your experts until they're slightly better.
Will the jury decision in this case need to be unanimous? No, right? I'd have to look that up.
To Google.
That's honestly, I haven't. No, I want to say it's a majority, but I could.
Yes, they do.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yep.
I was thinking.
Federal court, civil jury, civil verdicts must be unanimous.
Federal.
Yeah.
Got it.
I know we're both sitting there like, is it 9-3? Is it 10-2? Nope,
yeah.
It's federal.
It's federal. Yeah.
So.
I don't do like full disclosure. I've done one jury trial. They are the civil litigators, golden unicorn, white whale, whatever you want to call it. We don't get a lot of them unless you do specific areas. So I've done so many bench trials.
Oh.
So many bench trials.
I've never, yeah.
Which I kind of like, because I'm convincing a person who already knows the law.
Right.
Sometimes better than me. I hope no one sides with the liar Lively. Yeah, I mean, I just don't think she's going to have the evidence that she needs to prove intent. When the spoliation sanctions motions be decided, and how do you expect them to go?
I have a theory.
Hit me with it.
Okay, I think he's going to dismiss the Nathan and Wallace spoliation sanctions as irrelevant because as individuals, they didn't retaliate. So therefore they didn't have the intent when they were sending the messages. That's why I also think he's hoping that TAG will get themselves dismissed.
Gets the axe, so then he can really be clear.
So then he can say the spoliation is irrelevant because none of them were parties. And since they aren't able to be brought in as parties, they had no intent to destroy evidence because they had no reasonable belief that they were going to be brought in.
I don't know. I guess you could say, I mean, there is some argument there, you guys, that they should have been preserving evidence because there were lawyers involved in January. But then to say there are no issues for 8 months and things are amping up 8 months later, but nobody really knows how. It seems like it's a PR war. Who knows what's going to happen with the PR war? I think it's kind of a stretch. I don't think the judge wants to give this to them, but I also think the judge doesn't want to get overturned on appeal.
Right.
And I think you just laid out the roadmap for him. So somebody email the judge.
Yeah,
no,
somebody email
do not email the
judge. just if anybody knows him, just link it to the YouTube video and say what it's an hour and 40 minutes in. Is Blake's team secretly glad she is going rogue? They are the couple that needs someone to blame and someone to pay. It covers their ass in a way.
I don't know that she's going rogue. I think that a team of people helped her prepare those Instagram posts. And I think that she's doing exactly what the team is telling her to do. I think that if she loses at trial, there's a chance she could go after her attorneys, but I don't think she will. She always disappoints me, so this is one more way she'll disappoint me.
Yeah, I mean, Vera, this is interesting. The chat is way nicer than the Pro Lively YouTube live I jumped in on earlier. I think people get very emotionally invested in the outcome of a case, and so they're naturally going to be very disappointed when it doesn't come the way that they thought, and especially if somebody is kind of not either choosing not to read the documents or choosing to, and maybe doesn't understand the legalese, what they're seeing is that women are not protected. So I understand why they're angry.
They also were sold by people who are not good at this that Blake Lively was winning.
Yeah.
And Not Actually Golden and maybe even Little Girl Attorney, I just remember Not Actually Golden saying it as well. You can win every single procedural war and not be winning on the merits.
Right.
Procedural stuff is procedural stuff, and it doesn't have anything to do with the underlying case.
Right.
And how you're doing. And they were sold this idea that she was winning. And then they were blindsided with this decision. So I think they probably are very angry. I will also say I've noticed a lot of people are not interested in the facts of this case. They are interested in projecting their experiences onto Blake.
Yeah.
And it feels very personal for them.
Yeah.
And I can honor that. The inner wind chime in me sees and honors the inner wind chime in them. I just said it and I was like, you sound like such a fucking hippie all the time. But
yeah, people are projecting their experiences and they're going to feel very, very strongly. And I mean, not only would you say what you guys said about the procedural stuff, not only is it like, could it be the case? It's often the case because the judge is saying, before I dismiss this on the merits, I want to make sure you got every argument in that you needed to get it. And so that when I dismiss this, I know, and not even just for like an appeal reason, but just so that the judge knows that this case really wasn't different. Some of the stuff he said here is a departure from McSweeney, which was last year. Yeah. So, he's open to the evolution of retaliation if it's argued correctly. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think everybody just be gentle with the Blake Lively stance in your life because it's not going to go uphill from here. Do you think they should file a motion to exclude everything from Van Zandt? No.
I don't. I think like we talked about earlier, they got that information from the defendants directly. B, I think Van Zandt is much stronger over in the Stephanie Jones Jen Abel case, because we're talking about Jen Abel's personal information, and that's where I think that becomes relevant.
They could bring up Van Zandt because the smear campaign, you know, what they could say is, well, how come you didn't file a CRD complaint in September? And the answer is because they were doing Van Zandt in September.
Right.
So if you were talking to an attorney in September, how come you didn't go with the CRD route? I mean, there was no reason to wait till the end of the year. If anything, she's arguably not timely, like on some of the sexual harassment stuff because of how late she left it. And, you know.
Yeah.
So I think we could get Van Zandt in the main case.
I think we could. I don't know that it's a motion in limine. You want to be really, motions in limine are not throw mud at the wall and see what gets excluded. Motions in limine are very precise motions.
But have you considered the billable hours?
I have not. And I don't really have to. You guys, I will brag about this till the end of time. My billable hour requirement is 15 a week. I do not consider billable hours. Most attorneys have 35 to 40, just to compare. Now that keeps my salary a little lower.
Yeah.
But like, if I go over that, then I get bonuses, and that's sweet too. But like, I don't consider the billable hour. It's not a part of my life.
That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I would think I really feel like Friday is going to be interesting because I feel like we could see 4 motions and everything could be really reasonable and really well argued. And like the voir dire and jury instructions could be really basic, or this could be like, she's at the attorney's office right now saying like, we have to go to 11. We have to do everything we can to make this jury favorable to me.
Yeah. Well, and on the Wayfarer side, they're going to be really precise because the PR spin of Wayfarer tries, Justin Baldoni, for some reason,
right.
Justin Baldoni tries to keep out Blake's expert witness.
Right.
How does that look? Right. And people who know are going to be like, that man's not a defendant. What the fuck are you talking about?
Although there's a point where it's like, so what? Right? Because it's like, okay, well, everybody thinks he's Harvey Weinstein, but in a cult. So like, let them think it and then deal with it on the other side. I don't know.
Minus 40, maybe 45 once you factor in PTO and holidays. See, and that's why I left Big Law. I worked at a medium-sized firm, so I shouldn't call it Big Law, but yeah, I had a 35-hour requirement and my mental health crashed. The sexual harassment allegations and investigation didn't help.
I mean, at least
we're being really honest.
I mean, at least you're in a good place that you only want to quit sometimes.
And my boss wants to quit sometimes right alongside of me.
Right. Those are always the good things where they're like, I know, but you're like good at this. And you went to school for a really long time to do this.
Yeah.
Plus think of the times that you get on YouTube and hang out with me for 2 hours while we talk to 274 people about Blake Lively.
Crazy.
Let's see.
I guess total legal fees are around 80 million. I can't even do that kind of math anymore.
Yeah, Dan thinks it's like, he said, I don't know what the PR would be, but he said, I think Lively's probably spent 40 million.
Yeah.
And like, you could see 40 million on the other side, but that's because there's 9 fucking defendants. It's like, yeah, but then you just got Lively. Like Leslie Sloan had $1.8 million in fees. And like, how much was she in this case? Like, I was like, I forgot about Leslie.
I'd love to forget about Leslie.
I
really appreciate Britt addressing the part about people projecting their own trauma onto Blake Lively in some spaces. Pop music forums, mostly white women and gay men. Blake has a lot of support for this reason. Yeah. I actually almost made a response video to somebody that was in the music industry talking about this, and she was getting all sorts of things wrong and claiming she had read the case when I was like, you clearly hadn't. And I almost made a response video, and then I was like, it's just sad.
I think we've talked about this a lot, where it's just like, there's people that they're committed, but they're committed to having a position in the online discourse around it, and maybe less committed to being personally invested in people that are individuals, and I think I've said this with other people, where it's like, I think I've said this with like Taylor Swift, where there was a point, and this really doesn't happen anymore, but I feel like, 5-10 years ago, where somebody would be like, oh, if you're not a Swiftie, then you're not really a feminist. Or
Right.
somebody who doesn't like Taylor kind of has something vaguely wrong with them. And it's
You
like,
must hate women.
Yeah, they must hate
Yeah.
women. And it's kind of this where they're trying to take something that they just agree with, and they're trying to make it a virtue signal in addition to kind of a consumption type thing. And I don't like this phrase usually, but it's a very terminally online conversation, right? The reason why you see things like 9 women have accused Baldoni of sexual harassment is because their primary source for this is TikTok comment sections, and not the docket or docket updates or anywhere where you could get this information.
Or that patriarchy guy that
right
knows Ryan Reynolds. Like,
right.
It's coming directly from Ryan's team.
Right.
And there are plenty of people who are kind of the bigger name creators that are working directly with that patriarchy guy, and then it filters down to the comment sections. But it's like, you're not getting it from a lawyer, you're getting it from Ryan Reynolds' friend.
Right. And I mean, I think that's, people have to choose how they're going to spend their time.
Sure.
Yeah,
if that's how you want to get your information,
I mean, yeah,
look, more power to you.
Let's see.
I should say, allegedly, they follow each other on Instagram. I think there's Reddit thinks there are stronger connections that I couldn't tell you what they are now. So I should say allegedly, because that is Reddit's opinion and not my own. No, there's no way.
The only lawyers that I think would be like not getting in charge are the ones that filed the amicus briefs for the charities. But they're not really her attorneys. They're filing on behalf of a charity. They only represent the charity. So nobody's doing this for free. Yeah, nobody. She's not the kind of client you would need to work for free for, and attorneys like this don't work for free. So this is something, I did a thing on it. I need to make a video like just on its own. So the 47.1 is related to Baldoni's dismissed lawsuit against Blake Lively for defamation. So, I mean, this is my theory. I think I'll just have to make a video on it by itself. But my theory is Lyman is going to say there's part of the statute, this is 47.1a, which is statements made without malice that communicate harassment or something, are basically protected statements. Lyman did not rule that any of her statements were made without malice. So I expect the decision on this to read, I did not rule on malice because I didn't get that far. I used litigation privilege to dismiss the defamation lawsuit. So therefore, her statements are not covered under 47.1a in the statute, and therefore 47.1 doesn't apply. And if she wants to address this, she needs to go to an appellate judge in California.
Yeah.
Because it's like an anti-slap motion, basically.
Is Sara a paralegal? Sara is my personal paralegal.
I am a paralegal for TikTok lawyers.
No, but she's just wicked smart and does jury consulting and reads lawsuits for fun.
Yeah. I'm just autistic. And my special interest is lawsuits. Kind of.
You have read things that I'm like, you have a grasp of that better than some attorneys I know.
But that's because they specialize. There's always something.
It's because there are many dumb attorneys.
There's a lot of people who just got through law school. Yeah, so I am the TikTok paralegal for the TikTok attorneys.
Yeah. Sometimes in the group chat, I'll be like, I don't know, I'm waiting for Sara to read the case.
That's what not actually Golden like text, or like she messaged me on TikTok and she's like, do you have like a written up thing of the deadlines for pretrial motions? And I was like, no, but I can make one. And then like 8 minutes later, I sent her that Word document that you sent in the group chat. And she's like, what the fuck would we do without you? And I'm like,
yeah. She's our backbone. Is there a limit for the motions in Lemonade? No.
Like, yeah, that's why Friday is going to be really interesting, because typically this is very dry. Like, typically I'm the only person who cares.
There might be a local court rule. I take that back. Some local courts have a limit in motions in limine. So there could be, but no is the general answer.
Let's see. I mean, when have they ever listened to stuff like that, though? Let's see. I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, normally this is not something that I actually like care. Like, I would be the only person caring, but now I'm kind of realizing this is their last moment. This is their last thing before trial, to get your feelings out and say, I need this excluded because blah, blah, blah. Right. Thank you for the super chat, Khaleesi. Isn't Mipster like the generic of monster, like Mr. Pip? I just, for the rest of my life, every time I look at monster, I'm going to go Mipster. And it's not going to make any sense. But yeah, I mean, Friday's going to be really interesting. I'm curious. This will tell us a lot about how trial will go. Because I think what you're going to see is, have both sides kind of given up? Or are they feeling like the jury is the last bastion of, like, is it like, you'll see if Blake, I want to see if Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are on the phone with their lawyers saying, we gotta figure out the jury.
Yeah.
And yeah. So yeah.
I'm interested to see. The motions in limine will give us an idea of the trial strategy. We know some of the trial strategy.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see if Blake pulls something out of a hat. I don't know.
It's crazy to think they've had like 48 hours with trial strategy. Like, they've had, when did it come out? Thursday? Mm-hmm. So they've had 4 days, but 2 of them are weekend days. They've had 5 days now.
Another reason I do not miss Big Law is the amount of time you work on the weekends. I mean, I work on the weekends a fair amount anyway. Yeah. It just happens. But
yeah, they've had 5 days to kind of redesign their case.
Yeah.
After. Yeah, I mean, the judge gave some signals of what in limine motions Wayfair could file. It's like, if you guys wanted to keep that out, you know, but yeah.
I guess it is just a legal group chat, actually, to correct my statement. Oh, I missed your statement.
Let me scroll back up. I want to see what the statement is.
I know.
I love that there is a lawyer group chat. I'm not in the group chat, so it is a lawyer group chat because they're all lawyers. I just randomly get a message that's like, hey, do you have the schedule? And I'm like, yes, why?
I send you screenshots when we say nice things about you.
Oh, that's yeah, I got this when you guys were live. I got like a bunch of messages that are like, they're talking about you on the live, and I forgot you guys were live. So I'm like at work and I'm like, who? Like, somebody good?
Do they like me?
Like,
are they being nice?
Is it a good thing?
I'd fight someone if they said something mean about you.
Well, I was also thinking, like, is it
into oblivion?
Into oblivion. But also, like, I kind of thought, like, is there somebody else who's live? Like, is it like MJ or something? Like, I don't know who's live. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sarah is the unpaid intern. Yes. What do you guys think about the text where Taylor made fun of Justin's drama?
I made a whole video on it. I do not like green eggs and ham. I think to say, look, my brand of feminism is, if we are going to address violence and abuse, we also have to address violence and abuse that happens to men. Yeah. And it doesn't mean we have to center it. It doesn't mean that we have to make it the focal point. But when somebody is talking about their trauma and you say, this bitch got out his tiny violin, go fuck yourself.
And when we know what Taylor thinks about the word bitch. We know she thinks it's a very feminized term. And I think this is a good reminder that just because someone identifies as a feminist doesn't mean that they're not deeply patriarchal. That victimhood is a female role in patriarchy. A lot of people are deeply patriarchal. And she is degrading him in part because I think she thinks he's feminized himself.
Right.
And, you know, I kind of, not to go all tortured poets department, but I kind of think it's interesting that one of the things that I think Taylor has done that has probably hurt herself the most in her relationships is her failure to protect some of the people she cares about from the fame monster, you know, the popularity and the public stuff, you know. And I've, you know, just, I was like, I listened to that Tortured Poets Department as like the first introduction to Taylor Swift. And it was interesting because she seems to characterize fame as ruining that relationship, but then also being unable to kind of protect her partner. And when I see this in the context of Baldoni's text messages, it's like, well, maybe if you could see men as vulnerable and they didn't have to perform masculinity for you, you'd be in a relationship that you really want to be in, you know, or at least in a relationship that you wanted to be in at that point.
Yeah.
But you know, you need a man. You need a man's man. You need a.
It just, to me, it's, if you're going to sit on the New York Times cover and say, I'm going to be a silence breaker, you need to learn about the way abuse and violence moves. And to dismiss men's trauma, I think is disingenuous to saying, it's antithetical to saying you want to be a silence breaker. I will add that men who are imprisoned, particularly Black men, have very high rates of assault.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's this whole, you know, we love to be like more women than men, and that might be true. But also there are many men who have faced the prison industrial complex who get swept under the rug.
Well, and it's also, it's kind of a catch-22 because what men are seeing now is they are seeing women on TikTok say, oh my God, you guys should see what I say in my group chat with my friends. I'm just like Taylor. And it's like, okay, so men are being told that women have group chats where they make fun of the fact they've been raped. And then we're trying to get accurate data on how many men this has happened to. Right. And it's like, and that's the thing. It's like, you can't have it both ways. You can't say that you don't want men to identify as victims and then say, well, we want men to be in touch with their emotions. They want, you know, we want sensitive men, but then we don't allow them to have vulnerability. Right.
And the reason we hate sensitivity and vulnerability is they are feminine.
Right. There's
under
feminine
patriarchy.
things.
Right. And to have feminine aspects is bad. I mean, I say this about transness all the time.
Right.
Feel what you're going to feel about trans people, but always the example is male to female.
Right.
Men and women's sports is the line, right? Like the worst thing a man can do is want to be a woman.
Right.
But so rarely do we talk about female to male transition. Right.
And I mean, this is also like one of the things we kind of subtly do this is if a man is a predator, we often say, well, I wonder if that happened to him when he was a kid. This is something that's come up a lot with Prince Andrew. He has a teddy bear thing. Prince Andrew is like in the Epstein files and he has a weird teddy bear collection. And there's this kind of story about like, you know, oh, he must have been victimized as a child. And one of the things that does is that reinforces the idea that if a man identifies as a victim, he's more likely to eventually become a predator. And that creates this kind of, you know, incentive for men to stay silent on these issues.
Right.
Because they don't want to be perceived. Like if men say, you know, and that's something that's always kind of bothered me is like if men say that they were victimized as kids, a lot of times people will be hesitant about letting them babysit or letting them be around kids that they don't know. But if women say it, it doesn't really affect that. And part of that is because of the patriarchal presumption that victimhood is our natural state. Yeah. Victimhood is expected of us and victimhood is a natural part that we're just expected to live through.
Which is why that perpetual victimhood complex is, first of all, engaging in white supremacy because and patriarchy is a tool of white supremacy. I tend to use those interchangeably, but it's this idea, if you're a perpetual victim, you are feeding into the idea that you are the type of archetype of woman that patriarchy allows you to be. Right.
And that's, you know, we don't have to, it's limiting. It's limiting for men. And then the other thing too is like if women say, I'm not going to tolerate, you know, victimization, I'm not going to tolerate this kind of vulnerability from a man, what kind of men are you letting into your life? You know, I see like these women that are saying, I know there's some of them are quite young, you know, like late teens, early 20s, and saying, oh, that's how I talk about men in my group chat. And it's like, let me guess, every single guy that you've dated has been an insufferable asshole and you don't know why. You don't know why you can't meet men that aren't nice to you. It's like, because
they're nice to me at first.
Right. It's like, because you're not tolerating any sort of behavior that doesn't convey masculinity and the way that, you know, we've kind of, the way that we've kind of forced men and women to behave. So, but now she's with very manly man. And not to say that she doesn't, you know, she can't like a football player. I just do notice the pivot from to someone who doesn't necessarily, isn't as open about his emotions. I wouldn't say like has, you know, because we never know, but I wouldn't say has less emotional needs or anything, but just, you know, has a lot of support from what I can see, has a close-knit family and doesn't necessarily talk about his emotions in the same way.
Right.
And that's, you know,
it's an archetype that makes sense to me in the context of those text messages.
Right. You know, get you a real man.
Yeah, Gloria, they think they're a feminist because they only support women. The word feminine refers to a female, but they don't understand it being feminist. It's just not supporting women only. Exactly.
Right.
Like feminism is the idea not only of equality, but of allowing feminine traits, right? To really understand what that even means, to be feminized. To what are feminine traits? What do we consider feminine? There are things we consider feminine that we don't even consciously recognize as feminine.
Right.
And part of that is that patriarchy limits the conversations of feminine to Jezebel, Madonna, whore complex type stuff, right? You can either be a mother or you can be a whore and nothing in between. But there are all sorts of things that are feminine that have been sort of pushed aside. I think a great example of that is the body is considered feminine, and that includes your boogers. That includes, right? Like everything the body does, that is the feminine, right? So people will say, oh, the body, like, oh, the curves of your hips and like your skin. And, like they'll turn it into this sexual thing to fit it into that Madonna whore complex.
Right.
But it's also like, well, what are you going to do with the excrement? That's also the feminine, right? So it's like, it's so much deeper than what we think about, because patriarchy has limited what is feminine in itself.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of
off on that tangent forever.
They appear, I mean, so the jury seeing that, I don't know if they will. They could, because I think there's an argument about the Taylor Swift of it all that comes into the retaliation thing. I don't know what we'll see get admitted, but then it does sound like they may have had reason to fear Taylor Swift. They also are talking about the New York Times article, and they're talking about press that Baldoni is engaging in. I think it's that text message that I think is the most important, with the actual link to the article, because it means that they were keeping track of what Baldoni was doing, even things that are unrelated to the film or like talking about his personal life, so that they could potentially go after them as a mode of attack, or at least that they are keeping tabs on him as a person, right? Because when he's talking about his assault, he's doing it as a person. He's not necessarily talking about the film. And this is like after the film's come out. So I mean, there's a little bit of surveillance going on from them too.
I think though, because we're talking about, as far as the Wayfair party's defense, he doesn't know these texts are going on. They're private texts between Taylor and her friend, right? So it's like, it doesn't really go towards the elements that Blake has to prove. I think they would be easy to keep out. But I think they support Wayfair's story that these, you know, if we get into reasonableness of Blake thinking that she's being sexually harassed, I think it goes to that element. Because once again, it shows that she does not think that this man has a power dynamic over her.
Right. They're mocking him still.
Day 1, they're mocking him. Day 380, they're mocking him. And I think that's where that comes in, but I don't know that it comes in as far as retaliation. You know, and the intent.
I mean, the New York Times article comes in. I guess it depends what else is in that conversation.
Yeah.
Because the New York Times of it all, I guess we still don't know what Taylor was involved in with the New York Times. And that's going to be, you know.
They were making fun of his proposal, saying look, his proposal is really cheesy.
It's so stupid. I'm sorry. Like, but I'm not that person. I just, you know,
look, I make fun of like big proposals in rom-coms and stuff, and it's very rom-com coded. And I just would be like, why the fuck are you making me? No.
The thing is, some people are like that, though. I would make fun of someone for proposing to me. I'd be like, are you sure, you fucking weirdo? Like, you can do better, really.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And that, but Emily loved it.
Yeah, if she loves it,
he
then
didn't propose to me. He proposed to Emily.
That's what I mean. I would have said no.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I don't know. He has a nice house. I might say yes. I actually think Taylor might not have been involved with New York Times. Ryan Reynolds has a New York Times. Yeah, I mean, they have so many inroads to the New York Times. It's really hard to say who and how they got there.
I will be interested to see if we hear the Taylor Swift of it all. How the New York Times came to be, how, you know.
Taylor isn't out of it, too. She's very relevant for the Stephanie Jones.
Yeah.
Pass the ball to Taylor and Blake. I think Stephanie Jones is 10 toes down in this. I think Stephanie Jones thinks she is going to destroy Jen Abel's career, that she is going to destroy Melissa Nathan. And I think Stephanie Jones thinks she was right. She has not backed down so far.
WME is probably the common factor there.
Yeah. I think she has WME behind her.
Yeah.
I thought it was creative. Yeah, look, you guys, it was a nice little proposal. I'm just a hater. Anything romantic, and I'm like, shut the fuck
up. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for what you do on this case. Really appreciate the insights and the continued fight for the true victims.
I find it very frustrating that the dialogue has, in the mainstream media at least, sort of started and stopped with woman must be victim.
Right.
No look at evidence, no look at anything else. Woman must be victim.
No nuance. No.
And power dynamics and, you know, mental health, and there's so many different things. Darvo, actual Darvo, right? Like, there's so many things that are at play here that just don't point to Blake.
Right. And then it's kind of no.
Ooh. Yeah, so it's like, if we're going to care about abuse, we're going to care about abuse. And that's kind of goes back to the, like, we also have to care about abuse of men, not because it's happening to men and boys, although no one should experience any sort of kind of abuse or anything, harassment, rape, whatever.
Yeah.
That if we're recognizing the markers of abuse and harm, we would recognize them against men and boys. But what we're doing is ignoring those markers and those signs because men and boys can't be victims.
Right.
Which, to your point, is just perpetuating patriarchy's idea that only women can be victims.
And preventing the men from joining us. Part of the men not joining us is that they don't trust us. And part of the reason they don't trust us is because we say things like, oh my God, Taylor is literally so iconic for saying that to her friend.
She's just like me. Well, they were just her private texts and she was supporting her friend. It's like, great. But her friend was making up allegations against a black man. The amount of people that were like, oh my God, I would support my friend in that situation too. I'm like, if my friend
I mean, like, I'm being honest here. I think if it turned out that Trump had been sexually assaulted, I don't think you or I would make fun of him. There's a lot of things we'd say, but we'd be like, we would not make fun of him. I'm questioning anyone who's saying that they would also kind of mock that. It's, you know,
it is common though. I mean, how many people have said the phrase, don't drop the soap?
Yeah.
In terms of going to prison, like, we have rape jokes about men.
Yeah.
That are very, very common.
Yeah.
Right. And so there is this sort of acceptance of rape against people we don't like.
Right. I mean, Whitney says, I saw a creator I used to respect say they will never defend a man after the Taylor Swift and Blake Lively text reveal. She's okay with women being nasty because they are women. And I would argue, I'd also add, on some level, I think people are okay with this because they see women as always punching up, because they see women and want women to feel permanently subjugated. So the only thing we get to do is be nasty in the group chat because we lack actual power. I don't accept that.
Yeah.
Like, so, I mean, that's it. Like, it just, yeah. It, you know.
Justice for Brendan Fraser. Oh my God. Yeah. He seems so sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I mean, there's just, you know, we all can do more work.
Yeah.
Let's all just do more work, you know. So we want women to be as entitled and nasty as men are today. And that's kind of my issue, is like, I don't want to move like that. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to perpetuate violence, even on the smallest level. I don't want to say things like he runs the set like a barbecue. That's violence.
Yeah.
That's perpetuating a system of violence.
And we're both wearing green because we're nonviolent people, and green is a nonviolent and soothing color. There we go.
Peace.
How did we get to this topic? I think we're talking about Taylor Swift. And,
yeah.
But and anyway, this is going to be an interesting week. Friday is going to be very interesting. I'm expecting anything at this point. I'm expecting more sanctions motions. I'm expecting 70 in limine motions. I'm expecting I'm expecting them to call for a conference by Wednesday and say we need another conference because we can't agree over jury instructions. It's just going to be a lot. Yeah. Or it could be nothing, and everybody could suddenly be a professional. And even that might be more interesting than seeing
I would love to see it.
Yeah.
After Gottlieb's statement about Brian Friedman, I don't think it's coming, but I would love to see it.
Yeah, I mean, this is where I have never seen like high maintenance clients like this, because all the stuff I've done is like appellate stuff, criminal stuff, and like civil courts, but it's never like this. It's Colorado. We don't have that much fucking money. And so you don't see this, like, I have a feeling that like Ryan Reynolds is like, I read a book on jury psychology, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is what I think we should do.
And you know what? I want them to come in with their best strategy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then if they still lose, they did it on their best foot.
Yeah. Give them every chance, right? This Friday is also the deadline for TAG's motion. Yeah, for the amended motion for summary judgment just on TAG.
Yeah.
Let's see.
They have a lot of lawyer hours still coming in.
Jesus. And that's not, we're not even at trial. There was a rumor he had a planning board and visuals for this case. When I say I would give anything to be a fly in the wall in the Reynolds office where he's discussing how many in limine motions they should file.
Yeah.
Because he's one of those clients who says the more in limine motions, the better the lawyering.
Yeah.
And Gottlieb was like, hell yeah.
Do we think he'll attend court? I do.
Yeah.
I think he goes to support his wife and look like a loving husband.
Yeah.
I think the things he's avoided have not been too detrimental to him, but if he doesn't go to court, I think
they're getting divorced.
Yeah.
Like that would be the only, it would mean his brand is completely separate, but I think he'll go. I've never seen Gottlieb, but I picture a short man yelling and trying really hard to jump into his huge lifted truck. So first of all, he shaved his head, which was the best decision. It's the best decision for almost every man who's losing his hair. So that helps. He's also an excellent attorney from everything I've heard. And he's tall. Friedman is apparently not as tall as people thought. He seems
Friedman gives shorter guy.
Does he? I thought he seemed super tall to me. Yeah, I don't know. It's
Blind Item today says they're divorcing. I mean, I don't know how your marriage survives this.
This is one of those things where
there is someone on Reddit named Mike Gottlieb's bald head. The usernames and the flair on Reddit forever give me life.
Jesus Christ. I thought, yeah, Friedman to me seems like 6'4", but then I also thought John Mayer was 5'9". He's 6'3".
Oh.
He that man has 5'9" energy. I don't know.
He does not have 6'3" energy.
Yeah. Let's see. Katie might be as tall as Friedman.
She might be taller.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on having? Oh, go ahead.
I've heard she's all legs.
Yeah, looks 6'1", like.
What are your thoughts on having an audience, primary kids, profiting from that audience and having an alleged reputation of being vindictive and retaliatory? I'm not sure I understand.
I think it's Ryan Reynolds. Like,
got it.
Yeah.
And the blind item is about Ryan Reynolds.
Let me look at this blind item.
Is Deadpool's audience primarily kids?
Yeah, like, where do we see blind items? I'm Googling. Oh, here we go. I know AGC blind items.
Yeah, who dropped the blind?
Yeah, because that's the only website I actually know is AGC.
I do need to go here soon. I'm going to be on Citizen Journalists live tomorrow morning. So if anybody's going to be up at, I think she said 9 Eastern time, which is crazy early for me. So I'll look crazy tired. I may do my makeup on the live and you guys can make fun of how poorly I do makeup.
So let's see. Let me just pull this up for the last thing.
Deadpool is rated R. Crazy Days and Nights. Like the Adam Sandler movie? There are a lot of blind items about divorce. Him having a posse hiding him at a divorce attorney. I mean, I would imagine that there might be a race to the courthouse to save their reputations after this whole debacle. And the first person to claim, she made me go through this, she told me this whole story, he made me go through this, he put me through this, I didn't want to sue, he made me, whoever tells the story, right? And I think he's going to have more control of the media than she will. I think he has the media connections. The only reason she's A-list is because she's married to him.
Taylor could come back.
And Taylor Swift. Taylor could come back. I mean, there's a whole other saga.
Okay, she gets married to Travis, and then they break up, and then she and Blake are single together, and they can hit the town and go find new boyfriends. And then Carly gets divorced. I didn't see the blind item. I didn't look too closely. But let's see. I did think this was funny. Ezra Hudson in her last letter saying the Wayfair parties thought they would get a case changing order, and it's like, well, they're gonna. But okay, now we've seen it.
Yeah.
I mean,
A-list or A-list adjacent, she does have name recognition.
Yeah.
You know, Ryan will steal Sydney Sweeney from Scooter Braun. I mean, they are the same brand of pointy white hat. Too far?
I mean, Sydney Sweeney and Ryan Reynolds, that would be an interesting. I can't picture that.
Sorry, the Carly stuff was turning her head to whisper. I disagree.
Well, that's all the time we have for today.
Yeah, I do need to go to bed.
Yeah, but all right. So what we're waiting for this week, just the very quickest recap, we are waiting for pretrial motion. So we've got a voir dire questionnaire, which is just going to be proposed by both sides. We've got jury instructions that are proposed by both sides, and then in limine motions. I don't know if they have to have come to a decision on the jury instructions and voir dire together already, or if this is like they can propose them and then in a week we're going to get the responses. I've never seen people really disagree on jury instructions, but this is going to be a first. Like I've seen fights, but I've not seen it in the docket.
Oh, got it.
Where they've had like a meeting and then they talk about it in the meeting. I don't think there's going to be a meet and confer.
We hashed it out in chambers.
Yeah, this isn't going to be that. I think there's going to be fighting because this is still another avenue in the PR thing. So,
Tiffany, as an enrolled Kiowa,
Kiowa?
Did I say that? Kiowa?
I think it's Kiowa.
Your post had me in tears. That's why I try to educate people, is that, you know, I just want people to know what we've done. I tell Sarah all the time I want to talk about land policy, but really I just want to talk about the genocide because they're one and the same. So, but thank you for saying that. I did it for you.
Everyone go follow Britt. Come to the Britt everywhere, TikTok, YouTube. Do you have any other things?
I'm on Instagram. You can get a little dose of my personal life, I guess. You live in Prescott. Oh, let's get coffee. Hit me up.
Hit her up at Commit to the Bread.
Prescott, y'all, is one of the most beautiful places with a very interesting population of people.
All of Arizona is kind of interesting.
There are a lot of, yeah.
Same. And then you're on CJ tomorrow.
On CJ's Live.
C Journalist 24 is her username. Tomorrow. It's gonna be good. But yeah, Friday we're expecting another dump of documents on Friday.
Yeah.
And this is it. This is my weekend. This is
same.
This is what I've been training for, because I've been saying when the voir dire and all this comes out, that's when I can start weighing in. Yeah, fuck. So, all right. Yeah, keep an eye out. Keep following YouTube things. I don't know how to do that. This is allegedly for entertainment purposes only. Put me in, coach.
Everything we've said has just been for entertainment purposes only. I am a lawyer. I am not your lawyer.
I am not a lawyer. This is all allegedly and for entertainment purposes. Please do not subpoena me. Or at least be aware, if you subpoena me, I will make content about it. So
100%.
Yeah, just know that. So yeah, but I went to go buy snacks for Friday on Sunday and I forgot it was Easter. So I didn't, everything was closed.
Yeah.
So I think Friday night I'm going to go to the grocery store and just get a 12-pack of Monster Energy. Thank you guys for the super chats. That's funding my Monster Energy habit. my Mibster habit. Yes, and that's their CJ's channel for you guys to follow for tomorrow. All right. We're almost there. We're almost there. All right. Have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.